Welcome to Optimal Game State. I have been hobby locked over the last few weeks. I've got the new Cities of Sigmar box. I really love it, but for some reason it's been sitting on my hobby desk with some real slow progress. While it's there, I don't do any other hobby, but for some reasons I haven't been able to focus on finishing the Cities of Sigmar box. It's just one of those things. What had helped me stay focused is to think about how I'm going to use these models in Warcry. We already have the Cities of Sigmar from the Compendium, and while the names are slightly different, most of the profiles will work well for the models that you can, well enough that you can get them on the table. In this video, I'm going to take it a little bit further. We're going to make a new warband specifically for the models in this army box. We've done this a few times before, and I've really enjoyed the monthly Necromunda Apocrypha. So I've decided to dub this the Warcry Apocrypha. If you're unfamiliar with the word, Apocrypha is the word used to describe the writings that never made it into the Bible. In this case, we're going to be putting together unofficial rules for Warcry. Alright, let's start at the start. So the first fighter we have here is the Free Guild Steel Helm. So it's a hand weapon and shield. This is actually it's the exact same stats and profile as we have for the normal Free Guild fighters. So there's no changes on the actual stat. I was tempted to. It's a tricky one to get right though, because dwarfs have some really nice models, but they are slower, a little bit cheaper, and tougher. And it's like, where do you kind of balance them? So for this, I left it the way it was, and I picked and chose some of the reactions. So the abilities here mostly come from the Cities of Sigmar options. As you might know, with the Cities of Sigmar, there are actually several cities that you can pick from. So I had a wide range of abilities that I could pick and choose. The Indomitable Spirit is the standard reaction. Can't remember which one of them it was from, but this was an existing one. If you're targeted by a melee attack action, but before hit rolls are made, you can remove 3 damage points. You know, just give the human hanging in there kind of surviving idea. The first double, Reclaim for Sigmar, is similar. It was an existing one. It's only a minor upgrade on the universal double. So rather than just getting an extra attack, you're getting an extra 1 strength and attack, but you have to be near one of your objectives. So this is around the idea of Cities of Sigmar going out there to kind of reclaim things. So if there's an objective and they're close to it, they're going to be a little bit better. So they're doing their job, doing it for Sigmar. The last one is a slight change. There is a form shield wall ability that is exactly as is within the Cities of Sigmar, but it is limited to the heroes. And I always thought that was a bit weird, because normally with your heroes, you want to be out there using, big actions to get more utility out of the big characters. Instead, letting anyone use it, arguably, maybe I should have let the Bulwark with it, but it only benefits those with the Bulwark rune mark while they're within 3 inches of the fighter. So I guess in theory, another fighter could use it and boost all of the steel helms that have their shields. But I like it. So, if you can spend doubles to basically boost the toughness, and if you really wanted to, you could do it several times. You've got multiple doubles. Luckily, the ability system means you kind of got a lot of leeway. You can kind of get away with certain things, because there's only so many abilities that you're going to be able to use in a turn. If someone wants to boost the toughness of some Free Guild Steel Helms all the way up to 10, can they get a 10? No, maybe 7 max. Then, feel free. It's not going to be a big deal. Moving on to the leader. The only thing that I've done is I've taken Swift as the Wind, which is that one ability that constantly gets used in City of Sigmar, and I have renamed it. So it was renamed double time. But, basically that's it. And the stats are the same as the Sergeant. Decent stat line. I quite like the 2-4. It looks good. Not much to change here. So I'm pretty happy with that. So those are going to be our core. We've got 1 hero, and then we've got our 65-point Steel Helm. And that's kind of probably going to make up the bulk of this particular warband. We also have a Battle Priest in the box, 2 of them. So each squad of 10 of the Steel Helms can get a Battle Priest. This one is different. So here, what I wanted to do was I wanted to take the Flagellant profile and give it the Priest rune mark. And just for team, basically. And then I wanted to give it a special ability. I was kind of bold here. What I did do was, again, playing on that consecrating land, reclaiming things. I gave them the Kradron Overlord's Fight for Profitability, which is a super good ability, and this one doesn't have a leader rune mark. Now, only the Battle Priest out of this warband is going to be able to use it, so if it gets popped, then killing this 3 toughness, 10 wound fighter is going to remove the benefits. But it is a super good ability, and I kind of felt like it would work. So we have a couple of overlapping things here. So we have the standard steel helms, boosting each other. Then we've got their sergeant making move a little bit faster, and then we've got the battle priest, who's going to be giving him some pretty decent boosts in a small aura. So it's only going to be within 3 inches of them. Continuing this team, we've got the Alchemite Warforger. Now, these abilities have been dragged from... I'll start with the actual stats. It is basically the Battle Mage with no real changes. Abilities are different, though. So normally your Battle Mage would have a blast, I think, and then depending on which of the cities you went, you had a meteor or some big direct damage as a quad. In this case, we've picked up a couple of I think the Forge Fire comes from one of the Dwarf heroes, and the Ignite weapons, I think, was probably an existing Battle Mage option for one of the cities. Anyway, what Forge Fire will do, it's a double, you pick someone nearby, and then add to their strength. So it's another bonus, another buff, and then the Ignite weapons is going to be similar, but it's going to be a big aura thing. So that's going to be add 1 to characteristics. So there's going to be lots of these overlapping buffs, and hopefully the idea is to get a bunch of those steel helms down and have the warband work as a team to try boost up these attacks. For the Marshal, we just went with the Free Guild General. This has had no changes, although I probably should have put a hero rune mark for his triple ability just to match it. In this, is not going to make a difference because we're only going to be running fighters from this particular lineup rather than picking and choosing from all the Cities of Sigmar. So, there will be a bit of a limitation there. Stats are good. He's just a decent beat stick, good damage, 18 wounds, and then he's got 2 abilities. A double, that's going to do a little bit more damage, so half the value of the ability to damage points allocated for each crit. So, it's probably not going to be that many. He's got 4 dice. Well, I guess it depends where we'll have to work out whether it's worth it or not. Maybe down the line this would be something you could tweak if you find out it doesn't help or not. Often these abilities, you're comparing them to the universal Rampage, which is a universal double that gives you the extra attack. The other option is a triple Marshal Exemplar, and if he takes an enemy down, you get a bonus to nearby people. So again, we've got tons of these overlapping. In theory, if we got a lot of them going, if we got multiples of them, you could end up with a lot of stacks of damage, a lot of extra attacks. But because of the way the ability system is working, you're going to be limited on how many of those you're going to be able to get off. This last one is the Relic Envoy, or the last infantry. We've got some cavalry still to go. The Relic Envoy is a beautiful model that comes in the Cities of Sigmar box, but there's no equivalent anywhere. And in fact, in Age of Sigmar, it doesn't even count as a model. This is actually just a token to represent where the orders have been sent, which is kind of interesting. For this, I did want to model something with it. We've taken a Potgrot's stats. We've given it the minion rune mark, and it's just a 3 toughness, 6 wound, crappy little guy for 45 points. Isn't going to do much. We'll be able to contest objectives. I guess it can attack, but it's not going to be very good at it. And if something looks at it, it'll probably kill it. I thought I'd give it something a little bit interesting. So we've got our Lookout Sir reaction. The idea with this is it's going to protect the heroes. And it's going to protect the heroes by taking some damage for them instead. So if you have this beside your general, it's going to be able to soak up an extra 6 points of damage, up to 6 points of damage, to keep your general safe. I also like the idea of the little guy, getting thrown on the bus. Just feels kind of right. And then you can vow vengeance and swear that you will avenge him and so on and so forth. All right. This is the Free Guild Cavalier. So the Free Guild Cavalier is straight from the Demigryph. The Demigryph is a lance, though. So it is actually a range 2 ability. So it's got a bit of reach. And it only had strength 3. So basically I tweaked that and then left the points as is. So it went down to 1 range and went up from 3 to 4 strength, and everything else is left the same. The Cavalry Charge ability is your standard one, so as you ride in, you do fixed damage equal to the value of the ability as the triple. We see that everywhere. It is kind of the classic Cavalry Charge ability. Nice, straightforward. The models are gorgeous. The stat line is reasonable. For this one, we've gone for the same ability. We've got the Cavalry Charge. So this is the champion. And this one's a little bit interesting. What I've done here is I've given it 5 more wounds, which felt appropriate for a leader, a champion. And I've given it an extra attack. So that brings it up to a quite amazing stat line. So it's fast at 8 move. It's really hard to kill with 5 toughness and 25 wounds. And it hits like a truck. It's got 5 dice, 4 strength, and it does 2s and 5s. This is drifting towards a Kellyan King kind of level. It is a bit of a reach. And when I first put this together, I kind of double took and questioned my choices. But then I went back and had a look at the blessings. So if we factor in a +1 attack blessing and a +4 wounds, I know we gave it 5, but we'll be generous. You end up with, I think it's about 40. Yeah, I think it's about 40 of a points increase from both of those, because you are starting at 20 wounds rather than 21, which makes it puts it in a cheaper bracket, at least for the attack. So as long as you do the attack first and you do the wounds afterwards, you get the 40. And then that would bring it to 220 and a 5-point discount, just because it's not crazy. But I think this particular stat line is super great. So I didn't give it any additional abilities, and I'll be keeping a close eye on this particular one once I actually try to play these out. That is all the models in box. What we haven't done yet, is actually given any of the cities options. We've done a straight warband and abilities that are all just fixed, across the board. We can run with that. I probably will run with that. But for the purposes of this video, I also wanted to add in a quad. So this is we're going to give each of these 11 cities a quad all to itself that can be used by anyone. So we're not putting in any additional rune mark restrictions. Now, I really was tempted to. There were a couple of cases where the cities are maybe focused on beasts. So I think Excelsis is kind of have a beast focus, and one of them, I think it might be Vindicarum, has a very wizard focus. So there was a bit of a temptation to kind of put something in there, but I stuck to it's going to be a quad, and anyone's going to be able to use it. The reason why I went for a quad is, if you've listened to earlier videos, never plan for a quad. Assume that you're not going to be able to use your quad, and you will be much better off. I would never recommend bringing a fighter to power a quad, purely because you can't rely on it, especially ones that depend on the value of an ability. So if you're looking for a quad 6, you might spend 5 or 6 games before that happens. Just the way the numbers work out. The reason we've gone for quads to make these kind of unique cities is it's not going to cause too much damage. We can do some fun and crazy things, and if you painted up your warband in one set of colors, I've done mine in Lethis, then it's not going to be too much of a big deal. So if Hammerol Aksha has a much better ability than Lethis, and the metagame says you should always do that, it's probably only going to come up in a handful of games. So you're not going to lose too much, or I'm not going to lose too much if I play Lethis instead. The Lethis ability I've got, it's quite good though. Alright, let's kick into it. First off, Tempest Eye. So this one is rapid redeployment. For a few of these, what I did is I pulled out the Age of Sigmar book to see what the abilities that the army got in that, just to see what it was like, to try and give it a bit of a theme. And yeah, so it's rapid redeployment. Select a number of friendly fighters up to the value of this ability. That could be 6, that could be a lot. Each fighter selected may make a bonus disengage action if they're within 1 inch of an enemy fighter. It'll let you disengage with everyone. Like, you can immediately and it's got no limits, it's got no restrictions, but it's only going to be able to target people who are already in, and you're only getting disengaged. The comparison with this is, of course, Rampage, where you normally get an extra 2 actions. So with 2 actions, you're able to move and attack, which is big. With this, you can get up to 6, but they're only going to be disengaged. So, that seems like a bit of fun. Next up is Hammerol Aksha. And we're again going on this action efficiency thing. So this is the officers of the Academy Marshal. Select a number of fighters equal to half value of its ability, so that'll be 1 to 3, and each selected fighter can make a bonus move or attack action. So this can be better than getting your single move and attack, but you are spreading it across multiple fighters rather than just stacking on one, and it also is going to be ability dependent. So there will be cases where it will be better, and there will be cases where it'll be worse than just going rampage, which, I thought was nice. Hallowheart, one of the ones that are kind of focused on damage, and this one is actually a straight take from the existing ones. So this is the twin tail combat. Pick a visible enemy fighter and roll number of dice, bunch damage. So you have this already in the compendium, Cities of Sigmar, but with that you have to have someone with the mystic rune mark. So you have to have your battle mage to be able to power it, or the sorcerer. Here we're letting anyone do it, and so it's a slight boost. I didn't think it was amazing. It was kind of situational in the compendium format. And this, it's kind of cool. If you have a quad, anyone that you have on the board could conceivably direct that combat in. Hammerhall Gyra. So Hammerhall is a city split in 2. So Aksha is the side, the realm of fire, and then Gyra is the realm of life. For this one, we've got select a number of friendly fighters equal to the value of this ability, so again, can be lost, and remove up to 3 points of damage from each selected fighter. You can get a lot of value out of it, but it is going to be spread out, and it's only up to 3 points per select fighter. So there will be games where this will be amazing, and there will be games where this will be terrible and you just won't use it. Living City is, again, realm of life, so it's kind of similar. This one I went in a kind of different direction. The Sylvanet have a really fantastic teleport ability, and I stole it. Now it is a triple, and it is locked into 1 fighter that they have there. Here I've taken away that rune mark, so anyone in the warband can use it, which is, good, but I've upped it to a quad. We can remove any fighter from the battlefield, set them up anywhere on the battlefield for more than 5 inches away from enemy fighters. Could this be, abused and nasty? I mean, at worst, you're going to be looking at the general using it. So, because we're kind of locked into a small warband, there's only so far you can go with it. This is kind of a good example of where you can take abilities from another faction, tweak it a little bit to kind of get something that kind of fits. Graywater Fastness was a tricky one. They are more firearms and cannons kind of focused. And in this particular box, we don't have a lot of that. Now, we no doubt down the line will get more boxes. There are arbalists and cannons and guys with shields and guns. We're going to see tons of firearms eventually in the City of Sigmar, but they're not in this particular box. For this one, I had looked through all of the existing Cities of Sigmar options and did see this one. So this is Descending Ash Cloud. Until the end of the battle round, subtract 1 from the attacks characteristics. To minimum of 1. Attack actions made by enemy fighters while they're within 9 inches of this fighter. So they are essentially using the smoke as cover. And the change here was to drag down rune mark so anyone could use it. I think it was still a quad, so this is a slight improvement. Could be a bit of fun. Here is Lettuce, and as I said, this is the one that I'm painting mine currently up to B. So in an unsurprising situation, this one is quite good, I think. This is Mordas Embrace. We all know of Nagash, but Morda is one of the other gods that is tended to be worshipped by the humans. I think Morda is god of actual death and rest rather than undeath as Nagash is. Anyway, the mechanics of it are taken from the Night Haunts of all things. With the Night Haunts, there's a triple that lets you boost your attack of the fighter for the rest of their activation. So it'll be, if they pop it at start, you'll get your 2 actions out of it. And what it does is it counts hits as crits instead, melee only. And in this case, what I've done, I've changed it. I've made it a quad. We've removed the rune marks. And instead of boosting the attacks of the single fighter, it essentially puts a mark of death on a target. and anyone attacking it. So it will be a big boost for anyone attacking that particular target. Any of their attacks are going to be crits instead. Could be really, really good. Vindicarum, the quad Unyielding Fate. And again, we did... the theme of this was lifted from the Age of Sigmar book. So I was reading through the various descriptions of the special abilities that they've got in there. And in that, it was all about using the bravery rules to make sure people didn't break and bring them back. In this case, what we've done is we've taken the resurrection ability from the Soulblight Gravelords, and we've changed it into a quad instead of a triple. Instead of only targeting minions, we have stripped it so you can't do it on heroes. So you're probably going to be doing maybe a battle mage. You might get to pick up the little guy, the Relic Envoy again if you wanted, or you're just going to be maybe one of the knights. It's probably a good choice for it, and they're going to get set up again. So amazing ability. It's going to have all the same problems as Resurrections have had from the FAQs, and the idea is the guy's gone down, but you know the Fate of Sigmar has pushing through. So it's not really he's dead and he's been risen. It's he was wounded, but you know he's going to fight on. Unyielding Fate. Excelsis was a little bit tricky. Their focus within the Cities of Sigmar book is around boosting monsters, and there's a couple of things about boosting their beasts, so the horses. Didn't really feel like I want to go down this route, so I decided to come up with something completely different. This is actually just a simple net ability. We've scaled it up to a quad. It can pick anyone on the board, well, a visible enemy fighter. It doesn't have any rolls or any range requirements, so it's pretty effective. And the theme of this, the idea of this is your guys have set up traps ahead of time that you're able to just spring on the enemy. It seems nice. The net effects are fantastic. This is a pretty bonkers powerful one, but is a quad. So there is that. Settler's Gain. This is Expert Instruction. This one's a bit of a weird one. The idea of it from the Age of Sigmar book is that the elves are training the humans. It's a bit of a dodgy area, to be honest. I suspect that that's probably not a great city to live in if you're a human. The effect that we've got here is to just give +1 attacks to melees while they're in the area of this particular fighter. So again, it's just another one of those boosts. It's got a good range, and actually this one is essentially just the vampire ability, but we've upped it to a quad and removed the rune mark. Last up we have Misthaven. So Misthaven, the special ability was called Shadowed Approach, and that's the same as from the Age of Sigmar rulebook. And in this, we just select 3 friendly fighters and give them each a bonus move action. So again, we're talking about action efficiency here. You don't get to do the fight action, which is fantastic, is kind of prime, but instead you are getting to take 3 actions rather than the 2 that you would with Rampage. So this is probably a really good option early game, where you're not going to be able to move and attack, but you have a quad sitting there. Now you can spend it to get 3 of your fighters moving into position. And there might be some other scenarios, like when you're looking at treasure, when you're looking at objectives, there are options for it. Just something that's kind of interesting and kind of cool. Alright, and then that's the end of it. Warcry is a relatively hard game to break. There are only 4 turns, and each fighter gets only 2 activations. So typically a fighter only gets 8 activations in a game. Similarly, abilities are capped. You only get to roll 6 dice each turn to power your abilities, so there's only so much you can do in a game. This makes it an excellent game to make your own custom material for, as it's very forgiving. As long as you stay roughly within the range of reasonable, you should be able to have a fun game. If you're still unsure exactly what you can get away with, use existing fighters and then modify them slightly. Sometimes this will mean upping one stat and reducing another stat, because, it feels like it balances out. Other times you might adjust the points using the blessings as a guide. For abilities, see what's out there and make some minor adjustments to them. As long as you keep it flavorful, it's still going to be a fun game. Now, everything that I've got in here in this video is completely untested, and definitely could do with some actual playtesting to get right. Always remember that the goal with things like this is for both players to have a good time. So if you're trying something out like this, err on the side of letting your opponent have fun. If you think abilities might be a little bit too powerful, maybe let your opponent play them. Or if you have a choice, go with the weaker option and then see how it plays out to give yourself a better idea what it's going to be like. The key part here is to have fun, to enjoy the game. And Warcry is absolutely one of the best games to do that with. Hope you enjoyed this. I still have my Cities of Sigmar on my desk. They've just undergone an oil wash, so I've got a bit of an excuse to leave them alone for maybe another 24 hours before I get back stuck into it. Now I've got some rules. Maybe it'll give me a bit more of an incentive to try to get it finished so I can actually play a game with them. Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible two-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.